So at this point, I'd like to invite Ross McKerlich from the Center of Teaching and Learning at UBC Okanagan. Ron has been Assistant Instructional Designer in post-secondary education for over 20 years, specializing in technology, mediated learning, instructional design, and faculty development. So Ross, welcome to your presentation.
Thank you very much. And I'm just going to get situated here. All right, so you can hear me all right, I guess. I think I'm unmuted. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Excellent. So I'm glad to be here today, and thank you for inviting me. We're going to talk about H5P and particular one of the tools of H5P, which is the documentation tool. And we're going to apply that to reflection, and which we'll talk about a little bit further. I know we already did a land acknowledgement in the beginning. I just wanted to note that I'm joining you from the Silix Okanagan Nation up here in Kelowna, BC. I've been a settler on this land for about 22 years now, and it's a privilege to be on this land. There was two images here. One is on the left, you might recognize it's Howe Sound from about like the Horseshoe Bay area, which is actually where I started my life journey, believe it or not. But then I moved up here, as I was saying, about 22 years ago. And the one on the right is actually a picture of a trail, or actually it's a Lake Okanagan, called Paul's Tomb, which is an easy trail to get to, and it's a nice kind of covered area there. So I'm just very thankful. Water and land is quite meaningful to me, and I feel kind of at peace when I'm at that juncture. So I'm thankful to be on the Silix Okanagan Nation. Also, just wanted to introduce who I am. That was a nice introduction, so thank you for that. I am an instructional designer for technology-mediated learning at UBC Okanagan for their Center of Teaching and Learning. So it's kind of a long title, but basically I apply technology to learning, and I deal with the why of learning technology. And I do like to share just one thing I'd like to do outside of work, because I know that we're three-dimensional people. We're not just work and study. And so I chose to share a picture of me when I'm traveling, because traveling is definitely something I'm very much interested in. And also, the reason I'm interested in is I like to experience new things and learn about new places. And so this is me in Heidelberg last summer. I'm not sure how many people have been to Heidelberg, but it's a cool place. And it's actually the site of one of Europe's oldest universities. So very much a university town, really cool. In terms of the outcomes for today, participants will understand why reflection matters in experiential learning. So I'm tying H5P Documentation Tool to as a reflection tool and tying in experiential learning. I'm going to explore the H5P Documentation Tool and its benefits, and also practice creating a simple reflection activity using H5P. Actually, I don't think we'll probably get to the third one. That might be an after the session one. Kind of knowing that it might be a little bit tight, I actually did a recording of how to create an H5P documentation tool. So I'll share that later on with the LDDI. And just in terms of framing this particular talk, inspiration and curiosity, these two signposts are the guide our discussion at an innovative teaching community practice at UBC Okanagan. I'm a coordinator for that particular practice, and I thought it was a really great way of kind of framing this particular application of the H5P documentation tool. So I'm inspired by one of UBC Okanagan's recent, well, not recent, but current academic priorities, which is experiential education. I'm also curious about how can learners record all that they've learned, or at least some of what they learned, as a result of this rich learning experience. And I think what I'm going to see a lot in the future, and we will see a lot in the future as educators, is self-reflection. So further curiosity, however, is how are today's students doing when it comes to reflection and what barriers exist? So I'm going to pause just a little bit here and just invite people to either verbalize the question, but also they can also write in the chat here. But how are students doing today when it comes to reflection? I've got a few ideas or I don't know suspicions, but I'd like to hear from you as well. Is it natural and free flowing, or is it kind of a little bit on the side of pulling teeth? I was just saying, just feel free to verbalize it just using the audio or just put it in the chat. Right. They might use AI as their first resort and not really reflect themselves. That's true, actually. I did hear that feedback from one of our faculty members. Because I said, self-reflection might be a little bit AI proof. And he says, well, I don't know. If you ask AI, what you learned, that might actually be a pretty good answer if you give it context. So I like to think about it in a more positive sense. It might be AI proof in that kind of areas. It's more directed in the sense that they need to respond to prompts, right? It could be more meaningful. But I feel like sometimes it depends on the students and their motivation. That's true as well. Oh, great. Okay, excellent. I'd love to hear from a student. I often see reflection taking a back seat to assessment. Grades are the focus, not self-reflection. Yeah, so it's kind of what if self-reflection was assessment? Then that might be a little bit different from that perspective. So that's thank you for that information. And sorry, I can't go through all of these responses, but this is kind of what we're talking about is reflection and kind of in response to experiential education and how learners can actually reflect. And now we know that sometimes you needed basically some guided reflection prompts, right, for students. So there are other tools in our toolbox for reflection. These are some of them, like the classic discussion forum, unique discussion forum, where you have groups of one, and then have people reflect in this discussion forum space, and then the person like the professor can join in and see what they've been learning. UBC Blocks is also a great tool for self-reflection, which is UBC's own tool. It's actually stored within the UBC environment, and it's WordPress basically, which is also a good skill for learners to use. And then there's also audio and video tools, which are very UDL friendly. So people, like a student could actually create a podcast about what they've learned in their experiential learning, or create a video as well, and then store that within the UBC environment, like the Kaltura environment, perhaps. So those are good possibilities, but what I'm gonna demonstrate now is the H5P Documentation Tool. So how many of you used H5P? Just curious. So maybe put a thumbs up in the chat if that would be okay to say, yes, I've used it, or just some sort of other message. Okay, great. And has anyone used the documentation tool? No? Okay, well, that's good. because that's kind of the topic of what we're going to do is introduce today. Um, so I that's so H5P in the world, that's a little bit broad, but basically I just wanted to mention that it had its first introduction in like 2013, and its focus is and H5P, by the way, stands for HTML5 package, and its focus on reusable and interactive tools. And it is really promising, a really good, useful, and there's useful tool, and it can be applied to many different contexts. UBC has actually created the like an open hub called, H5P, the H5P Open Hub for UBC. And basically, the idea is that you create H5P within this protected area, and then you embed the H5P objects in different contexts. Like could be like on a website, or it could be in a Canvas course and that sort of thing. And it could also be the documentation tool. I was going to a lot of you have actually probably been to the open, like h5p.open.ubc.ca, so I won't go there at the moment, but it's easy to use, and you just have to log in with your campus-wide login when you're in there. And then you have your own private space to create H5P objects. Also, just wanted to point a resource on that H5P side of UBC. There's like 45 different tools to choose from. And also there's a table under the examples that highlight the accessibility of these tools, which is really important. So why use the H5P documentation tool for reflection? It can provide structure. I think that was mentioned in the chat, which is actually really important. It can be exported by the student and then submitted to the learning management system like Canvas. And that's also a really nice advantage. I've heard from a lot of faculty that they would like kind of a journaling tool for Canvas, but one doesn't really exist except if you count that, groups of one for the discussion forum. But basically with this, folks can create their own reflection or series of reflections, and then export it either as a Word as a Word document, and then upload that into the learning management system. So that does actually facilitate it, which is really nice. It can also be shared easily as well. Like a faculty member can create, say, like a structured self-reflection prompts, and then it can be easily shared by others. And it's also easy to create as well. And you'll see that if you watch the video later on. So let's take a closer look, and I'll just show you an example of H5P that I created just for self-reflection purposes. And it's based off of Driscoll, which is 1994, who then, it's the what, so what, now what framework. And so let's click on that. And then just 1 second. Oops. I do not want chat, actually. 1 second. Bobby recognized that. This is actually just on my blog, actually. So I created this H5P in the UBC H5P environment, and then I embedded it here. So this is actually, you can actually, this is an example of embedding it in a blog, but you can also embed it within Canvas as well. I like to start off with a kind of an introduction kind of thing, just so that students know what they're expected to do. You've had this great learning experience. Please reflect in a structured way at the end, and at the end of your reflection, please export, etc. And then I created this kind of a series of prompts. So in the space below, please use the words to describe your experience. So that is the what. And I would say something very thoughtful there, of course. And then what did I learn? And again, I would say some very thoughtful things there. And then the now what? What are you going to be doing differently? And by the way, you can make this your own as well. And I'll show you how to do that in a second here. But I just now I'll go into the next one, which is export this reflection. And so if I click on this, then I can create a document and then export that as a Word document. And then that could be the basis of a submission. So hopefully that just demonstrates a possible application for H5P in terms of self-reflection. And I just wanted to show you the ability to reuse or embed. And so in this case, like one of your faculty members, one of your colleagues can just create, one specialized self-reflection form for a particular experience that a lot of the classes will be experiencing, and then other people can reuse it. So reusing is actually you can download as an H5P file, and then you can upload it to your own personal space on the h5p.open.ubc.ca, and then also edit it as well if it requires editing. So that's the reuse, and also embed is just on the iframe URL that you can just copy and paste and then insert into whatever space you like as I was saying, a Canvas course or a website or something like that. So that's kind of a summary of what H5P can do in terms of self-reflection. And it's also just an example of using the documentation tool in that way. And also it is easy to, the Creative Commons is actually embedded in this as well. And you can choose what Creative Commons you want as the author. And then, so wherever it goes, you'll be given access, or you're not given access, you'll be given credit according to the way that you would like. So I'm just going to go back to there. I know that was a little bit quick, but I just wanted to, again, kind of share some possibilities of self-reflection and how H5P can be used for that particular exercise, an important exercise, because I believe that there's going to be more self-reflection, especially as we use or especially as we focus more on experiential education, because that's actually a really important to show. So what kind of questions do you have about H5P? And I can also go to h5p.open.ubc.ca if that's helpful too.
Thank you so much, Ross. I would like everyone to ask questions either via chat or raising your hand or opening the mic and asking your questions.
Okay, 1 second here. I'm just getting the access to the chat. Oh, okay. Nothing quite yet.
If you don't mind, I have a question. Or well, first let's start with Natasha's question and then I can ask mine. Natasha asked if you find it too structured.
Thanks for the question, Natasha. In this case, it's kind of customizable. Like I designed, that particular documentation tool with that framework in mind, but you can also design it any way you like more open-ended, for example. And I just gave that as an example. And you could get less structured or more structured, but it's up to the person that creates it, whatever is best for that learning experience.
Thank you.
Thank
What do you
you.
find works best, by the way? Just, sorry, Natasha. What do you find works best, by the way, more open-ended or more structured? That's a good question.
Yeah. I was just thinking how I also use reflection in my course, and the
Hmm.
students don't like it at the beginning, right? Who writes a journal, right?
Yeah.
But then after, at the end of the course, they find it quite useful. And I think it's not just for students, it's also useful for any professional, right? To reflect
Mm.
back and so on. But they reflect on the courses, and I teach about the selection of technologies. So they have
Oh,
to talk about why they use specific tools.
yeah.
And I think with that, it's talking about AI, it's very difficult to put
Hmm.
all of that into AI and get the reflection because it's so
I agree.
specific to the what they designed. Uh,
Yeah.
but because it's a master degree program, they do need more space to
Hmm.
reflect, something not as structured. So that's why I was asking about the structure, whether it's
Hmm.
limiting in some ways, but it depends on the course, I guess.
Yeah. And also you do have control over how structured it is. You could just have one question on there, for example, say one question per week or something like that, and then have people and then design it so that you would export that once per week or just at the end of the semester or that sort of thing. So there's lots of potential there. There's also like goals that students can create within this H5P documentation tool, and that's even more a little targeted, but it should be really interesting. But thanks, Natasha.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Go ahead,
Natasha.
Christina.
Yeah, my question was on the student side, like the
Mhm.
user experience. What have they said about this sort of platform for reflection, and have they encountered any challenges in using it?
That's a good question, Christina. I don't think it has been used that much yet for this purpose, and so I guess the jury is still out. But it reminds me that if I am, recommending this tool for reflection, that it'd be nice to get some feedback from students. Um, and yeah, from a student's perspective, we put that um, into I always like stepping into the student's shoes, but do you think it would, how do you think they would react? Like if we created a persona as a student, like 20 something current generation, how they react to something like this tool? What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I just had a question regarding like the how it worked, because if I understood correctly, they write on
Yes.
the tool in itself, but they
Hmm.
cannot send it from there to the teacher, can they?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so they would have
Yeah,
to download it and then send it to the teacher.
that's correct. Yeah.
I can see that as something really powerful, but at the same
Hmm.
time, a little bit discouraging. I don't know, from the user experience, depending on they are, how close they are to technology. I find it powerful
Hmm.
from the standpoint that I can start writing and knowing that it's not going to self save, and that would allow me
Yeah.
the space to reflect more openly. I love that. And that when I'm ready, I download it, and then if I'm happy, I can send it to the teacher. I find that
Hmm.
very interesting. But there are people that prefer like less clicks or less steps in the process. So
Hmm.
it all depends. And I would love to hear about
Yeah.
students as well in that sense.
Yeah, and actually, so when they do export it, then they can edit the Word document, for example, say if it doesn't come out exactly the way we want, and so they could edit at that point, and then submit later on as a form of assessment. So it's really like formative assessment for sure, but or could be summative if that's one of the main ways that the professor is assessing their student. Um, and then, yeah, that is, by the way, one thing about H5P. I think quite a few people have used it actually, so they know about this limitation, or not limitation, but just the fact that it is considered like formative, and so therefore there's no tracking within the Canvas learning management system. There is a plugin that allows to do that, and that was piloted, but then it was not pursued after the pilot. So it should be considered just as, formative, as I was saying. But in this case, because we can export these artifacts, like export the documentation, then it could become a formative. Formative. People could mark that particularly.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah,
I don't know
thank
if
you.
there are any other questions. Okay, there's one in the chat from Miriam. Could you tell us about the video you wanted to share with the LDDI team?
Yeah, thanks. The video is just a demonstration of how to create the H5P documentation tool. So I knew that I'd be tight on time, so I thought I better record something just in case. And of course, that was the right decision because I wanted more interaction with people. So that's all it is. And so I just recorded it using Kaltura, which is one of our good learning media tools. And then it's stored within EBC, and then I'll just share the link. So that'll be done later on today.
Thank you. Thanks.
And what was the other one here?
There's a last question. I'm curious how the documentation element can be combined with other H5P elements. Is that possible?
Actually, it is. I didn't really show that particularly, but you could actually add an image, for example, or an accordion, or an accordion meaning, the collapsible content that you've seen in a lot of different websites and that sort of thing. That could be part of the H5P. So in this case, I chose text because I just wanted to give context and explanation to a learner and that sort of thing. But it is possible to add those elements in there as well. So instead of adding a page, like I did, you could add an accordion, or you could add an image as well. Images are good. I just didn't use that as an example.